Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. Thank you for joining me, Justin Barone, your friendly neighborhood pothead, on Friday to start your weekend off right. This week, we're doing things a little different. This week, I decided to do an interview. That's right, we're talking to a certified hypnotist. So spark one up, sit back, relax, and let's see what kind of we could get into. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So we all know the fun side of hypnosis. We all know the part where, you're at a university, you're in the audience at some hypnosis show, and the guy's trying to make you dry hump a stage or dry hump the air or make you look like a general goof in front of your friends. That's what I think the general public knows and understands of hypnosis. However, today we have Gary Barone, that's right, my father, and he is a hypnotist. He helps people with how did you say it, with issues and
Issues.
habits that they want to break. This is the more, I guess, serious side of hypnosis, the more helpful side of hypnosis. I would say that it probably goes along the lines of holistic healing. And it can be very effective, provided that the person that is looking for a solution outside of the normal, I guess, doctor visits, can help them. He can help with a bunch of these different issues that potentially inhibit you from experiencing life to the fullest. So instead of talking about the fun side and making your friends look like jackasses, let's talk about what the real side of hypnosis is and how it can actually help somebody improve on some bad habits that they have or issues that they're facing in their life.
Well, I'll try and explain some of that. You're correct in terms of there's two different types of hypnosis. One is the entertainment version, and the other is the more therapeutic. Habits become developed. There's really three parts to our mind that we deal with, and I label them as such: the conscious mind, the subconscious, and then the superconscious. And I'll tell you what we believe that each part is responsible for. Your subconscious mind is where all your memories are, your thoughts, your habits, your beliefs, and so on. And it's very much like an 8-year-old child. It responds to 8-year-old levels of language, and it responds very much to imagery. And the purpose of your subconscious or your conscious mind is to protect your subconscious from being inundated on a daily basis, minute by minute. We're all inundated with billions of pieces of information every day, and not all of it's good. In fact, very little of it's good. But if you look at advertising, for example, you'll see that in general, the language is at an 8-year-old's level. I use the the president of the United States method of communicating as a good example of that. It's all very simplistic language at an 8-year-old level. So advertising uses it, politicians use it, Trump uses it very effectively, up until you start listening to it too much, and then it just drives you nuts. But anyway, the conscious mind is what protects you from getting too much of that in there. And once you get through to it, you can make changes. So what we do in hypnosis is we put you into a very mild trance, and we get your conscious mind busy and put aside so we can communicate directly with your subconscious mind. And so, for example, a smoker that wants to quit smoking, he has to have the desire to do so, he or she. They also have to be willing to be hypnotized. One interesting fact is that most people think that only less than smart people can be hypnotized. But the fact is, the more intelligent you are, the easier you are to hypnotize. The higher the IQ, the easier you become hypnotized. People
Why
that
is
can't,
that?
I think it's more of an acceptance. They're ready, when they decide to do something like that, they more subconsciously accept it and consciously accept it. So they make the effort
Hmm.
to let themselves go.
So,
Um,
so, so
go ahead.
you're basically saying that if people that think they're like, I know you hypnotized me, right? And you helped me with
Hmm.
quitting smoking.
Right.
We tried it a couple times,
Hmm.
and I like to think I'm smart. I'm sure some other people think less of me, but so if the first couple times you had said to me like, um, how did that feel? How do you think that went? And then after I answered you, you'd also said to me that you don't like people in your head. So it was harder the first couple times to get in my head because I wasn't allowing it to happen. And
Correct.
part of that for me was that it was you as my dad, right? Um,
Hmm.
doing the hypnosis. So it's just kind of awkward and a little bit weird the first time. And
Right.
then I'd say it was like the third time not this past Christmas, but before that,
Hmm.
you had hypnotized me when we came out to visit you, and that one took. But
Right.
at that point, I was kind of at the point where I was like, all right, this needs to happen. So I was definitely more, um, not susceptible, but I was more into the idea of doing that and having it work. Right.
Yeah.
So
Receptive is the word you're looking for.
receptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with I guess highly intelligent people, would you say that that's sort of like or more intelligent people, I guess, would you say that that's like the catalyst is that they're more, once they make a decision to do something, they're more um in the mode to actually do that and complete that task.
Um, no, so, here's the sort of benchmark that everybody uses in the business. If you got an IQ of 70 or less, the chances are you won't be hypnotized. If you got issues like schizophrenia and so on, you won't be able to concentrate enough to be hypnotized. You won't
Hmm.
be able to focus. Okay. But whether you're, 71 or 160 in terms of your IQ, it really comes down to your willingness to be hypnotized and your desire to be hypnotized. Without that desire, without that belief, and without a rapport, okay, with your hypnotist,
Hmm.
you won't be hypnotized. You'll battle it all the time. Okay.
Hmm.
And in your case, for example, me as your parent, so you're sort of reluctant to get into that vulnerability aspect of it. So the first couple of times you didn't let yourself go. The third
Yeah.
time you finally did, and you were also at a point where you said, "Hey, I've got to do something about this." You finally reached that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Prior to that, you weren't really right there yet. So in that case, it doesn't take like it does when you're right there, when you're ready to do whatever you want to do. Um, the habits are the most difficult things to deal with. Um, I've been fortunate to help a number of people with smoking, other phobias like being afraid of snakes and so on. And when you're ready to do something, it happens very quickly. It's like one or two sessions, and you're off to the races. It's
Right.
like a major change, dramatic change right away. Um, but a lot of hypnosis is used for trauma, um, childhood traumas, and so on. When you look at what happens in your childhood, it doesn't take a very major trauma to all of a sudden be major to the child. And we think of it like an adult, but in reality, I've had clients, for example, where they've been angry most of their life and they're in their 50s.
Mm.
And you find that when you talk to them and take them back a little bit in time, that there was an issue with one of their parents. The
Mm.
parents were pushing them in a very um, uncommunicative way, swearing and cursing at them to get on the school bus to get out to get on the just to get to school, and doing this virtually every day. So it eventually wears down the child, and it could be one instance or 10. It doesn't matter how many. It eventually wears down the child to believe that their parent doesn't love them.
Mm.
And in that case, that carries with them, and they're angry because their parents seem to be angry with them all the time. Um, but then when you take them back to that age, because we can do the regression to bring them back to talk to that child at 12 years old, and explain that the parent doesn't, what the real intent of that conversation is because they want you to do well. They want you to do well in life. And what's really happening is they're lousy communicators. Instead of being encouraging and so on, they go the aggressive route because they don't know how to do it any differently.
Hmm.
But their whole intent is to um, excuse me for a second. Their whole intent is to make sure the child does well, but they're doing it wrong.
Hmm.
And it leaves an impact on the child. And once you take them back there and you express that to the 12-year-old person, and let them know that, and the adult of that version, may give them a hug or whatever and explain what's going on and what happened. Then it's like a computer. It's sort of like your brain refiles. And it's almost, you can see it happening where they all of a sudden, they've gone from angry to click, 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 bring them back to the here and now, and they're different people altogether.
So I have a question on that then. So
Sure.
is there a difference in, so like we were saying, if you have a habit that you want to change, you have to be at the point that you want to change that, right? Like smoking or losing weight or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
With trying to deal with childhood traumas, do you find that there's a difference with that? Like, do people need to be at a point where they need to change that, or does that sort of change? Like, is that in part and parcel with trying to change something else that you figure this out, or is it specific that you're hypnotizing somebody to deal with that problem?
It's a good question. Often, what happens in the interview, in the consult, or the beginning of the session, uh, we're searching around for what's causing whatever the issue is, and issues like that seem to be historically have been easier to deal with for me than breaking habits,
Hmm.
because basically it's they're not really aware of it. So a lot of it is like a tightness in the chest and so on and so forth. And once I get an idea and I'm relatively intuitive of what these things are, I'll take them back to a certain time or get them to recreate the feeling and then extract the feelings from wherever it is and discard it. Okay.
So,
And then fill that void with
okay.
positive thoughts and feelings, which makes a huge difference, and it's immediate. You can
So
virtually see the difference in the person.
So that's something then that somebody's not necessarily coming in to figure out with you, like as the focus of the session with you. The focus of the session would be something different, that sort of thing is discovered as you're talking about whatever it is that this
Mm.
person wants to fix, right?
Yeah, if somebody will come in and say, "Look, I'm always anxious, or stressed out or whatever," and you have a discussion with them, and you narrow it down to where it probably caused it. And once you have identified where it's probably being caused, you can then do something about it.
Mm,
And the really amazing thing about these kind of things is it's extremely fast and effective. Frankly, I find myself when I'm doing what is supposed to be a consult. Um, I just had a fellow last week who came in and he was in a panic mode, and so he starts to explain his anxiety and everything else, and we were supposed to be in there for half an hour, but he was in such a panic mode. I said, no, we're going to do something right now, and so I identified where the issue was, took him back to that issue, and got rid of it right away. Um, just simply gone, and the panic was no longer there. He was going to come back to see me that following week. He's coming this week, but I have to say that he's coming this week instead of last week because he was, what the panic wasn't there anymore at that degree.
okay.
So there's a search that goes on, and through time you get to know how to pull it out, see it, recognize it, and then you can and then get to a point where you know how to deal with it.
So
Okay?
anything, whichever one, it doesn't, the question I have is, how many sessions, I guess, if somebody signs up with you to do some sessions, no
Mhm.
matter what it's for, is this like an ongoing forever thing, like a chiropractor? Or
No, no.
or is it more of like a, "Hey, I can I can help you fix some things," and then, after a limited amount of sessions, we should be good, and
Mhm.
then, I don't know, maybe you do like a check-in every once in a while, or what
Yeah.
how does the whole process work?
I generally go for at least 2 sessions. Okay. One is to, again, if it's depending on what it is. If it's a habit, it's usually three.
Okay,
If it's just, one of the ones I've described, emotional ones and so on, it's usually two.
okay.
Okay. And having said that, what ends up happening is that you deal with it the first time, the first session. So you want to come back in and make sure that it's cleared.
Mhm.
Or in a lot of cases, I just say, email me every day for a week and let me know how you're doing. Okay. And if you feel like you need to, come back in.
Hmm.
So I don't, it's like when I was taking the courses for hypnotism, the running joke with all the hypnotists were that a therapist is forever, a hypnotist is 2 or 3 times. So it's a huge difference. I've had therapists send people to me, doctors send people to me, and you can't help everybody. That's number one.
Right.
Okay, but if you're reasonable at what you do and you're cognizant of what different issues can be, then you can help a very large percentage of them. And it's a wide range of issues and a wide range of things that need to be fixed that people are burdened with that it really affects their life negatively.
Yeah.
And we can relatively fix them pretty quick, really.
So you're based in Alberta. I just got a message saying that we're running out a bit of time, so we got like
Yeah,
7 minutes
yeah,
left roughly. Um,
uh-huh,
but what I was gonna say was, you're based in Alberta. I'm in Ontario.
yeah,
Obviously, we're online, and let's
yep,
say there's somebody watching this that
hmm,
has a habit they wanna fix, whether it's lose weight or they wanna quit smoking or whether they
hmm,
wanna get rid of some anxiety or stress or anything like that. Is it possible to do something like this on a Zoom call like we're doing right now, or is it better and more effective if
absolutely.
it's done in person?
Um, Depends on the person, but generally speaking, it's just as effective online as it is in person. Well, let me rephrase that. At this point, I would say it's about 80% as effective, depending on the issue. Okay, but issues can be cleared up so easily in the sense that you're extracting those negatives from the person's mind and body. So that can be done just as easy over Zoom or something like that as it is in person, as long as the person is comfortable with the technology.
Right,
Simple as that.
right.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna leave anybody with a little planted seed so that when their wife says something like turkey legs, they turn into a chicken and start clucking around the kitchen, right?
No, the only thing I have is a special at Christmas time. One is for husbands, the other is for wives. And what we do is, the husband can just give me a list of things he wants to fix on his wife, and then he sends her in after Christmas, and I start working on her. Similarly, she makes a list for him to get fixed, and he comes in and I start working on him.
Ah,
It's a good
the Christmas
product.
special.
Yes. No, no,
Well,
you can do those things, but there's an ethics that comes into it. You don't want people doing silly things,
no,
you
yeah.
know. So yeah, I don't do that. I
Well,
have no
I've
interest in doing that.
well, I have firsthand experience with this, and it worked for me when I was ready to do it. It worked
Uh,
really well. Like, well, what did we do it like 2 years ago? I think it was, or maybe a year and a half
yeah,
ago, something like that.
I think
And
it was Christmas, a year ago Christmas.
yeah, so and since
Yeah.
that time, um, I mean, I still vape from time to time. But
Yeah.
the vapes that I use are very low nicotine.
Mhm.
I find that I don't crave cigarettes anymore. And I
Good.
found that since that time, I think I had one sort of month where that got really stressful where I kind of like fell off the wagon, but
Yeah.
um I sort of when I found that I had that issue, what I did was I sort of like sat back and I really thought about like, what are you doing this for, buddy? And it just seemed like
Mhm.
all the stuff that we had gone through kicked back in, and I was able just to
Yeah.
sort of toss the pack, and I was able to move forward again. So since that time,
Good.
I want to say it was like maybe the spring of last year. So
Mhm.
2024 and like maybe May or June. Um,
Right.
I found that since that point on, I really I haven't touched anything cigarette wise, and
Good.
I feel great about it. So
Yeah.
it definitely works. You just got to be ready for it, right?
Yeah.
Or
You got to
prepared to
be
do it,
ready.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I know, right? It worked out
Yeah.
pretty well, I think. So
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll put your website in the comments or in the description of the video so that if anybody
Mhm.
watching this wants to try learn more about it or contact Gary about it, they could
Mhm.
do that directly through email or through, I'm sure your website has a contact
Yep.
spot page up there. And
Yeah.
you can ask them all the questions you want because we've only got a limited amount of time, unfortunately, on here. But I
Yeah.
know I've seen people that he's worked with that it's night and day. I've done it, it's night and day. Just be prepared that when you're doing this, you're ready to do this because if you're not ready to do it, you're not going to be primed to be able to receive what you're trying to receive and change what you're trying to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
And things like weight loss. Just to, if we got a minute,
yeah,
quickly on weight loss. Weight loss in our programs for weight loss, we aim for 1 to 2 pounds, usually a pound and a half average per week. Uh, and we don't. It's not a diet. We just take away the urge to overindulge and educate you, make you aware of where you're going off track and where you should be. And actually, we're just developing an app for that right now, which will make it all very much easier to do
awesome.
as a lengthy program. So
So is that app
yeah,
I've only got like a minute 30 left, so but is that app specifically for weight loss or can you use it for anything once it's ready?
no, it's going to be simply for weight loss. Yeah, yeah. At this point, we'll be making other ones or additions to it. That other things that we do within hypnosis, but right now with the weight loss portion of our business is there's a lot of people wanting to do it. So it's, instead of doing it handwritten and with forms and all that stuff, they'll just be able to do it on their phone.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
I will direct everybody I can to see you for it, even if they're not in Alberta, because like you said, you can do this over Zoom. I
Hmm.
know that I've had a couple. I think I've had a refresher with you over Zoom, or we've practiced something that you were trying to work on
Yeah,
over Zoom. So it does work, and provided you have, at least, um, he's got a good mic. As long as you have good something to hear on,
yeah.
you should be pretty solid. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
I'll direct as many people as need help in your direction.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
All right, thanks. We'll talk to you
Okay.
later. Okay.
Alrighty. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Those are my thoughts off the stem for this week. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope you learned a little bit more about hypnosis beyond the clucking like a chicken and air humping the stage in the university auditorium. If you're looking for a little bit of help and a little extra push to help you rid yourself of some of these some bad habits or change some habits that you have, or maybe just change how you feel about life. Check out habitsbegone.com. I'll put the link in the description. Yeah, I hope you found it informative. And please subscribe to the channel or wherever you're listening to or watching this. Leave a like if you can, because that obviously helps me out quite a bit in the algorithm. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode so that I could change things or work on things. Yeah, and I hope you come back next week with me, Justin Barone, on Thoughts Off the Stem, your friendly neighborhood pothead. I hope your week goes well. I hope your month goes well. I hope your year goes well. I hope everything goes well for you. And don't forget to check out tots420.com for some blogs and all the links to all the episodes and the places that you can watch, listen, or consume it, I guess you could say. Until next time, keep your lids low, baby.